I cannot be silent.
Back when Eisenhower was the president, golf courses is where most of his time was spent. So I never really listened to what the president said, because in general I believed that the general was politically dead. But he always seemed to know when the muscles were about to be flexed, because I remember him saying something, mumbling something about a military-industrial complex.
As I have walked among the desperate, rejected, and angry young men, I have told them that Molotov cocktails and rifles would not solve their problems. I have tried to offer them my deepest compassion while maintaining my conviction that social change comes most meaningfully through nonviolent action. But they ask, and rightly so, what about Vietnam? They ask if our home nation wasn't using massive doses of violence to solve its problem, to bring about the changes it wanted. Their questions hit home, and I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government. For the sake of those boys, for the sake of this government, for the sake of the hundreds of thousands trembling under our violence, I cannot be silent.
Each one reach one, each one time.
I cannot be silent.
Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Everyone must play a part. Everyone's got to go to work. Work for peace. Spirit say work.
I cannot be silent.
Empowering the body, mind, and spirit. This is We Cannot Be Silent with Phil Restino and Larry Pinkney.
Tonight we're very lucky to have two very special guests that Larry and I have been wanting to get on the show for a while. One of them being Chris Ernesto of USinAfrica.com and stpeteforpeace.org. And we've heard Chris for a number of years now on different programs and all the good work that they've done through their websites on the Internet. Chris Ernesto is a 2003 founding member of St. Pete for Peace, a long-standing and very active anti-war organization in St. Petersburg, Florida. Chris also created and manages the websites OccupyArrests.com and USinAfrica.com, a project of St. Pete for Peace to raise awareness and provide a starting point for a further understanding of the growing U.S. military role in Africa. During his recent May 13, 2014 guest appearance on the Power Hour with Joyce Riley radio show, Chris discussed with Joyce and the listeners the overt and covert U.S. military involvement in Africa under AFRICOM and the left cover and black ignorance in the United States, allowing for the African-American U.S. President Obama to have commanded and expanded such policies for the past 5+ years. Before time unfortunately ran out, Chris also was able to touch on similar U.S. covert actions in the recent destabilization of the Ukraine. Word is that the Power Hour radio show will try to have Chris Ernesto back on in the near future to discuss in more depth his research and analysis of the U.S. involvement in the current crisis in the Ukraine. And we also have with us tonight a man that I've followed for years, his activism in Veterans for Peace. His name is John Amidon, and John is a United States Marine Corps veteran, and he's the chapter president of the Albany, New York chapter of Veterans for Peace. John Amidon was arrested preemptively at Hancock Field while protesting drones. A skillful defense by Attorney Kathy Manley clearly showed that John was not guilty. The true issue of this case is the drone assassination program conducted by President Obama and the murder of so many children, women, and men by drone pilots at Hancock Field, Creech Air Force Base, and other military bases. In the video, Counselor Manley and the Grim Reaper, linked in our email announcement, John Amidon talks about his recent acquittal for protesting as the Grim Reaper against the U.S. military stationed at Hancock Field Air Base in upstate New York, launching the deadly drone bomber attacks. And again, we promoted tonight's show, and we're titling it Obama's Drones, War on Africa, Thanks to Left Cover, Black Ignorance at Home. And when we say ignorance, we mean not knowing something. So that's what we mean by ignorance, not knowing. We want to again welcome everybody for once again tuning into us this month on the Wolf Spirit Radio Network. And as you just heard, we've got two fantastic guests lined up for our program tonight, and both areas that each guest is specializing in are related. The drone warfare program and Africa, and our military involvement in Africa, and how it's been able to occur under the command of the, let's say it, the black Democrat Obama, under left cover and black ignorance here at home. So with that, I do want to say welcome Chris and welcome John, and just get a hello back to make sure you're with us.
Hey Phil, good to hear from you.
Hi Chris, welcome to the show. John, are you with us?
Yes, I am, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, John, thanks so much for joining us tonight, and Chris and Larry, our guest our guests are with us. We want to make sure our show's co-host is with us. Larry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, of course.
There are a couple of YouTubes out there that we've been using to promote both our guests. John Amidon, as I mentioned in the lead-in, there's a YouTube out called Counselor Manley, and that's Manley, and the Grim Reaper, Marine Corps veteran acquitted for protesting drone killings. And that's something we put a link in our announcement, and we encourage you all to please, if you haven't already, get to that YouTube video. And it's on your YouTube channel, John. What is the title of your YouTube channel, John Amidon?
Yeah, the title of my YouTube channel is Pazamidon. Paz. It's peace in Spanish, Paz, and then my last name.
Great. That's wonderful. And we have the one that we're using to promote Chris Ernesto and his recent appearances around the different radio shows is on our own Central Florida VFP channel. And we have it titled USInAfrica.com's Chris Ernesto Talks Obama and AFRICOM with Joyce Riley, May 13, 2014. So please, if you haven't already, take a look at it as well. John, maybe you could just bring our listeners and Larry and I and the rest up to speed on what happened up there in New York State with the Grim Reaper protest. Give us a little background and if you would, please.
Sure. On April 28, 2013, about 250 people went out to Hancock Field in East Syracuse, New York, to protest drones. That previous weekend, we had a convergence. The upstate New York Coalition to Ground the Drones and End the Wars and the Syracuse Peace Council had pretty much a 2-day conference, and then we culminated it with a protest at the base. And on that day, 31 people were arrested. And I had one set of charges, which was criminal trespass and loitering for wearing a mask. However, most of the people who did a die-in got charged with governmental obstruction, which is fairly serious, and then they had 2 violations. One was disorderly, and I'm not quite sure what the other one was. However, most of their trials are coming up for those who did not accept the plea bargain, and they are many of them are looking, potentially at a year in jail for the governmental obstruction charge. My charge of criminal trespass was reduced to attempted criminal trespass and loitering, and the reason being the trespass law reads that you have to have an enclosed area on all 4 sides for it to actually be criminal trespass, and the area that I was pulled, when I was pulled out of the free speech zone onto their side, that area wasn't actually enclosed on all 4 sides, so they could only charged me with either attempted criminal trespass and or simple trespass. So anyway, we had 31 people arrested, and many of them are going to trial, and some of the trials won't be held until June 2015 at this point. And most of the people who didn't take the plea bargain are having jury trials, so it'll be quite an interesting set of trials coming up over the next year. So that kind of gives you some background, and it is kind of why things are being done the way they are a mystery to me and all of us. Why none of the, or few of the people have been joined. Most people wanted to join, but the judge refused joining. So most of the individuals involved are individually on trial and will have separate juries. And as I said, there's 1 or 2 trials a month for most of this upcoming year.
I see. And the drone base up there in where you are, and I neglected to ask you to give a little more background on your own self, and you're a Marine Corps veteran and a longtime member of Veterans for Peace. If you would, John, would you fill in some of the blanks for our listeners to give a little? I know who you are, but our listeners don't, or maybe they know better than I, but I'm sure there's some who don't. Would you mind taking a minute or two to giving us a little more background on how you came to be and eventually get to protesting these drones in Hancock Air Base?
Sure. Well, I joined the Marine Corps in 1965. I was 17 at the time, and it was pretty much the height of the Vietnam conflict between 65 and 70. I got out in late 1968. I was extremely fortunate, however, and was sent to Okinawa. So I didn't see combat, praise God, and after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to college, and then, years passed, and I did some protesting of the war immediately, but then became, pretty much just living an ordinary life. But however, in the right around 1990, I started going down to Central America and would spend some time in Guatemala and Belize. And while I was in Guatemala, I learned about the School of the Americas early on. And right around the School of the Americas, for the listeners who don't know about it, is a school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and it's now called the Western Hemispheric Institute for Security Cooperation. And we bring up Latin American soldiers and train them, and then they go home, and the results of our training are military coups and the assassination of priests and social workers and college educators. Anybody who actually tries to help the poor usually is a target, because the school produces graduates who try to maintain the status quo, which help the elite ruling class. And anyway, so I got involved in the 90s in trying to close the School of the Americas. And then as time progressed, I'm still involved in that issue some, but we've done a lot of different things over the years. I started a conference called the Kateri Tegawitha Peace Conference in 1998, and it's still going on to this day. And because of my work with nuclear weapons and the Nevada Desert Experience and Sister Megan Rice, I was out there for a while in Las Vegas, and we go out to the Nevada test site and purchase nuclear weapons and work on nuclear abolition. However, Creech Air Force Base is actually on the way to the Nevada test site, and which is now called the Nevada National Security Site. Mm-hmm. So I've been protesting drones at Creech Air Force Base with the Nevada Desert Experience, and also a group of Code Pink women usually come out each year, led by Toby Lomé. And so we've been out there protesting drones and nuclear weapons, and arrested out there at those places. And Hancock Field is not so far from Albany, New York, where I actually live. From Albany, it's about 130 miles up the thruway, mostly west. And I knew a variety of activists from Syracuse, from the School of the Americas Watch efforts. There's a very strong group of activists centered around, the Syracuse Peace Council and the Upstate Drone, and people from, Buffalo and Rochester and Albany and Syracuse and Ithaca and Binghamton primarily, all come together to perform civil resistance. And there's been a Gandhian wave approach, repeated civil resistance actions at Hancock Field. And the reason being because the drone pilots have been killing far too many people. Many of them, in fact, most of them are non-combatants and not even targets. And so we have a lot of children, women, and men being killed who have nothing to do with terrorism and nothing to do with any of the ongoing wars, just simply happen to live there and be misidentified often and or in close proximity to a target. And so,
Excuse me. Let me interrupt right here. This is Larry Pinkney speaking. John, look, what I want you to do, let's not assume anything. What I'd like you to do, first of all, tell our audience what drones are. Let's not assume that our audience even knows what drones are. All right? Tell our audience what a drone is, what it does, and what its effect is when it when it attacks people or countries or nations or villages or wedding parties. Okay? Would you do that, John?
Sure. Essentially, a drone is an unmanned small plane, and they're started out primarily with a Predator, which was used more for surveillance, and then it was retrofitted for weapons, and then they produced a larger version which was built to carry weapons, and that is the MQ-9 Reaper drone. And that will carry Hellfire missiles and several 500-pound bombs. And I think I'm not quite sure the exact number of missiles it will carry. I think it's 5, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, so you have to think of a small plane which is piloted by remote control by a pilot sitting in an office in this case in Syracuse, New York, or it could be in Indian Springs, Nevada. It's at Creech Air Force Base, or it could be at any number of different bases. And then when they see a target, which is identified through a network of different folks, different analysts, at some point in time, the pilot is ordered to fire a missile or drop a bomb, usually firing a missile, and it will kill whoever is in close proximity with the target. And a lot of times the targets are misidentified. So as you mentioned, wedding parties have been fired upon, funeral processions have been fired upon, tribal gatherings have been fired upon, and there are many innocent people being killed with hellfire missiles primarily, and it really goes. It gets a lot worse than that because we do things like signature killings, and signature killings is when a description. It's really a profile, killing by profile. So the signature may be you're walking down a road with a rifle, and that's it, and you can become a target. And we don't even actually know who we're killing. We also have a program called Gilgamesh, which Edward Snowden released, which targeted people by their cell phone number, by megadata, in fact. And if you happen to have that particular cell phone, whether you were the intended target or not, they would target the cell phone and wherever it was and kill that person. And we also do something called double tapping. And double tapping is if a target is seen and fired upon and is hit, then the first responders who come, whoever they may be, and they could be their version of emergency medical technicians, or they could be firemen, or they could be just friends and neighbors. A group gathers to see what happens. So they fire a second missile and kill this group of people also. And the logic behind that is, well, there might be somebody there we needed to kill. So we're
God. Sorry, John.
We're just killing many people indiscriminately, and there's virtually no regard for any of these people. And the numbers aren't counted, and in fact, that data, I believe, was just recently, they passed the law so that we are no longer entitled to even know how many people are being killed. And so, I mean, the Drone Assassination program is a program that violates sovereignty of different nations and just kills a lot of innocent people, and really needs to end. And hence, there are people all over the country at this point in Syracuse, New York, and out in Beale Air Force Base. It's somewhere close to Sacramento as a rough approximation. In Creech, which is in Indian Springs, Nevada, and there's the bases in Iowa, and new drone bases in Niagara, New York, and just proliferating. So it's really hard to keep up with how many drone bases there are. Some of them are done.
So John. So essentially, the drone program is essentially an assassination program. Am I correct?
The weaponized drone program is, but there's also a spying program for surveillance, and some of that's being done here at this point. In New York State...
When you say here, what do you mean? You mean here in the United States, is that correct?
Yeah, here in the United States, we fly, drones are flying along the borders, and that we've been told of, and in New York State, the Adirondack Park is a training zone, so they, in effect, spy on people for training purposes.
So we're talking about drones both as a spying and killing machine. It can be used as both a spying program, as in the United States, as you said here. Let's be clear. Let's remember, our audience may or may not know what we're talking about. So let's make sure they do know what we're talking about. That the drone program, the drones are being used right here in the United States for purposes of spying, but abroad they're being used for purposes of not only spying, but also assassinating, committing outright murder. But anyway, go ahead, John. I just have to interject because I want to make sure our audience knows. I don't want to assume anything. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, so anyway, and in fact, I think it's 4 Americans, and again, I'm not quite sure of the details, but I believe it's 4 Americans also have been assassinated by drones overseas at this point, too. So all of this is going on, and for the most part, the public does remain unaware. And however, there's a growing movement to protest the drone assassination program, and again, it's in California, New York, Iowa. People are protesting all over the country. And anyway, that's what led to me being at Syracuse, and I guess I've been arrested at least twice up at Syracuse. And the first time the charges were just dismissed, and the second time, April 28th, I was on trial. And in this particular case, I was, in a free speech zone with a permit. It was a permitted demonstration, and I was set up on this barrier to do some political theater, and I was pulled off. Well, a cop came up from behind and yanked me off the barrier and pulled me into their area where I wasn't supposed to be, and then they arrested me and charged me with trespass and loitering for wearing a mask. And the mask laws are different in different places. Anyway, in New York State, it came out. The law came out of the rent wars back in the 1700s, which is a bit of history, and with the Dutch. And so there is a law on the books which prevent you from wearing a mask, but it has to be more than. You have to be congregating with other people wearing a mask, and there are some details, nuances to the law.
Excuse me, John. Excuse me. Law in the books preventing people from wearing masks. What happens on Halloween?
Yeah, that's...
No, I'm serious.
Yes.
I mean, what happens on Halloween? But anyway, I just thought I'd interject that.
Thank you, Harry.
What you're talking about is occurring under Mr. Hope and Change, right? Mr. Hope and Change, Barack Obama. Let's not forget this. We're talking about Mr. Hope and Change, Barack Obama, and all of this is going on under his watch, on his watch. So anyway, but I mean Halloween. So what are you doing? I guess we can't wear a mask on Halloween either. But anyway, go ahead now, brother. Go ahead, make it clear.
Thank you, Larry. I'd also like to add a little to that background on the, and thank you, John, for that, bringing us all up to speed on that. Larry, as some of our listeners already know, has been writing about and warning about the war making that would continue to occur and expand under the presidency of Barack Obama before he was even elected in 2008. And to see it all play out is very frustrating. And Larry and I have dealt with this, spoken out about this issue of a drone bombing for years now, and Larry's writings cover it. If you go to blackactivistwg.org, you'll see. And one of the things we talked about, John and Chris, is that each time one of these drone attacks occurs elsewhere, it's a me lie for the people on the other end of that drone attack. You know, every one of them is a me lie, and that would be in reference to the My Lai massacre that in Vietnam that Seymour Hersh, Pulitzer Prize winning reporter, wrote about in the late 60s and exposed. And so it's very frustrating for a lot of us who know about this drone killing program and have known for years, and who knew that it would expand under the presidency of Barack Obama, largely due to the left cover. And when we say left cover, we mean those who were protesting, like our organization, John, Veterans for Peace, and you mentioned Code Pink and all those. When we set the standard for these types of acts of aggression and illegal killing abroad, we set the standard publicly, and very publicly we set the standard that it was it warranted a public call for impeachment. And when the Democrat Obama came in, one of our members, and Chris, I appreciate you for hanging in and listening to this, but I did want to read this from a piece that our member Tom Santoni wrote in response to President Obama's third day in office when he launched drone attacks into the country of Pakistan, killing a few dozen of its people and 3 Pakistani children. And Tom Santoni, a former member of Central Florida Veterans for Peace, the chapter I do need to make clear for our listeners, as Larry reminds us, our chapter was formed in 2005 in response to Veterans for Peace making the public call for impeaching President Bush for war crimes, and that call was made by former Veterans for Peace President Mike Ferner in Washington, D.C. On 16 June 2005. That's what started our chapter in Central Florida, and we took up that cause very strongly. And here's what Tom Santoni wrote on 2 February 2009, just a week or so after Obama launched his deadly, what turned out to be the opening salvo of what's now a 5+ year, very developed campaign of drone killing all over the world. And Tom wrote, "How many Obama-ordered civilian deaths in foreign lands will you tolerate before speaking out and taking action? 3 Pakistani children are 3 too many for me." The military was aiming to bomb al-Qaeda and Taliban suspects, but there was some unfortunate collateral damage. Oops. And here's the last piece of it, folks. Bomber pilots who leisurely drive to work each day, safely ensconced on military bases in the United States, fired the Hellfire missiles on civilians in Pakistan from unmanned, electronically controlled Predator drone aircraft. Predator plus Hellfire translates into the remote-controlled explosion of children's fragile bodies halfway around the world. Oh, the joys of joystick bombing, the thrill of commuter combat killing, out of sight, out of mind, out of corporate U.S. media. And that was in Tom Santoni's piece. And it's at this point in time, guys, I'd like to bring Chris Ernesto into the discussion. Chris is, again, as I mentioned, the manager of the website USinAfrica.com, but he's also one of the founding members of St. Pete for Peace back in 2003. And that right around there is MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, which I believe is the home of CENTCOM, and a lot of the warfare, the remote control warfare that we're just talking about. Chris, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here, Phil.
Oh, great. I appreciate your patience. Chris, this is a good time to bring you in and to pick up where John did a wonderful job in explaining, with Larry's help, the whole phenomenon of this drone bombing program and what it's really about. Could you, for our listeners, give a little background on your own self and then tie it together with St. Pete for Peace and USinAfrica.com, as well as and how that all relates to the drone bombing program that we're talking about tonight. Thank you, Chris, and welcome to the show.
Sure. Hey, thanks. Let me tie in the stuff that John and Larry were talking about first. The drones that we're using militarily, it's really the weapon of a coward. You know, when somebody goes into battle, they actually have an opportunity to kill. The people who operate drones, many times they're working out of an office building in Nevada, dropping a bomb on people in Afghanistan or Yemen or Somalia. And I think what we need to do is be very clear that these people are cowards and they need to be called out on it. And a lot of guys talk about how after they get off of work, working at a drone base, they have a hard time adjusting to standing and working at a Taco Bell. Well, I don't have any sympathy for these people, but tying into what you guys are talking about, the United States is operating very covertly in the continent of Africa, and it's currently in at least 27 African countries. And one of its main tools to try to impose its will in Africa are the use of drones. And we have a drone base in Seychelles, and we also have a brand new drone base in the country of Niger, in addition to flying drones out of Djibouti and, of course, out of Ethiopia to particularly go after Somalia. So the use of drones domestically in the United States for the purposes that John was talking about is heinous. And to expand upon the idea that people should quickly come to terms with the use of drones, it's become the new way to wage a war because they realize that doing things like an invasion of Iraq is not going to work anymore. Even the docile people of the United States aren't going to stand for it, but the empire must eat, and therefore the use of drones has become one of its main tools.
That's good. That brings it together pretty darn good. Thank you, Chris. And as far as MacDill Air Force Base and what comes out of there, what are the similarities to what John has been and his fellows up in upstate New York, what they've been doing with places like Hancock Airfield and such? Can you find any similarities there, and what the groups that you know of in the Tampa St. Pete area were doing over there to try to accomplish the same that John Amidon and the good folks up in New York have been doing in relation to the drone programs?
Yeah, we follow what John and the people up there have been doing because we need to support each other. And anti-war activists need to be motivated by each other. And when we see people standing at the gates and being willing to put their bodies on the line, it encourages us. And we've done the same thing at MacDill. MacDill is the Central Command for the United States Army. It's where a lot of the generals sit and plan wars and actually conduct some of the wars. And being in the Tampa area, we have the ability to get relatively close. We kind of have to play a little game with them, but we're able to get near the gates, and because of the configuration, people going in and out of MacDill have to see us. And we've recently hit them pretty hard on Syria and Iran, and just let them know that we are not going to stand by as they blindly accept another mission into a country and then willfully, ignorantly plead, hey, I just do as told. Well, no, that's not going to work with us. So we do have access.
Chris, let me interject. This is Larry here. Let me interject, my brother. Dig it. The fact, one of the things you said just now, well, earlier actually, you said, the whole drone thing really is being conducted by cowards, and I really want to emphasize that. All right, I'm so glad that you said that because NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, Fox News, all of these sorry, vomit-filled, media morons push this thing about, you can fight for America and you can sit in an air-conditioned office, but they leave out something and be a cowardly murderer, okay? They leave that out and be a cowardly murderer with these drones because, the reality is, and I'm so glad you used the word coward, and I'm honing in on that because you are absolutely 100% correct. Cowardly, and murdering targets. How dare I use that word? People, human beings, families, old women, young women, children, old men, whole villages. The act of cowards That is what the drone missile, that is what Barack Obama is all about. He's a coward. And he's about being an act of a coward. He's about, moving on. If you look at the film, Lifting the Veil, you'll see a clip in there where he was speaking at the Central Intelligence Agency, and he was joking about his Predator drone missile. He was joking about it, all right? So I think that it's really important that we all understand that this insanity, this murder, and it's mass murder, is being committed in our name, in the name of the American people. And we gotta stop this. We gotta stop it now, all right? And Obama, the so-called Democrat, the so-called black, he's not black, and he's not a Democrat. He's certainly not a Democrat small d. He might be a Democrat capital D, but then we know the capital D Democrats are not Democrats. As Malcolm X said, they reverse everything and make right wrong and wrong right. So here now, today in the 21st century, in the year 2014, Chris, what do we got? Well, we got drone missiles, we got drone man Obama, okay, murdering people in Africa, okay? Let me be specific. In North Africa, Libya, in East Africa, Somalia, in Uganda, in throughout the African continent, East, North, and South, in West Africa, okay, and in Arabia, in the Arab part where this Djibouti or whether it's Yemen, the country of Yemen, which is basically a U.S.-backed dictatorship anyway. But that's okay. It's American, right? And, and then we have the Saudis, who were deeply involved in 9/11, but of course they're allies of the United States, so what difference does that make? So it should make a hell of a difference, a big difference, you think, but the bottom line is we have to understand that all of this killing, this mass murdering, all right, is being done in our nation. In our nation, all right? And Chris and John, I have to say to both of you that I have the utmost respect for you all speaking up. And the folks who want to run around and use this nonsense about, he's just attacking Obama because he's black. No. You know what? I'm criticizing Obama because he's a murderer. Okay? He's a murderer. He's a soldier Hun on steroids. All right? That's why I'm criticizing him. And we all should be saying no to his madness. No to his insanity. Black. Give me a break. So I'm just saying this. I'll stop right now. I just had to interject there, bro. Go ahead, man.
Thank you, Larry. And as I mentioned earlier, and John and Chris are getting a little taste of what we're familiar with Larry, because this cuts to the heart with Larry. Larry's been a lifelong activist and advocate for justice and peace, and to see to be a veteran of the original Black Panther Party, to have walked the walk and fought the fight all these years, and to see this basically that this fraud be played out on the American people, this hoax, it cuts to the core and it hurts pretty hard, and I do want to recommend, Larry, the articles that we put in our email blast for tonight's show. As I mentioned, Larry's been writing about this for many years, saw this coming, tried to alert the black community, tried to alert all of America, the so-called anti-war left, and had much of his what he was warning about fall on deaf ears. So and to see all the death and destruction as it actually has played out and gotten to the point where it is right now, it hurts. But please go to blackactivistwg.org, and one of the pieces you'll see there, in Obama presidency, more of the same, only worse. Is it time to impeach Barack Obama? Here's another one, Beyond Vietnam into Afghanistan and indefinite detention of U.S. citizens. Syria, war criminal Obama and perpetual U.S. wars. Obama brand hope, a litany of rhetorical dope. Just column after column after column, media appearance after media appearance, trying to get through to folks. And so, those who aren't familiar with Larry and I's program, that'll give you a little background on the frustration. We have Chris Ernesto with us of USinAfrica.com and John Amidon of Veterans for Peace in Albany, New York, both very strong activists against war, period, what our U.S. Government is doing on our U.S. tax dollar with our U.S. kids. So one of the things that we did want to bring into the discussion tonight, Chris and John, is both of you guys have been involved in the anti-war movement before Obama came along, and you I've watched you both and tried to follow your example. You guys have stayed consistent and true. And I mentioned earlier that Tom Santoni of our Central Florida Veterans for Peace, his response to the Obama's opening salvo, which turned out to be the camel's nose under the tent, so to speak. It was that article, Impeach Obama, by Tom Santoni. That led to our chapter having to deal with this issue of for years as a chapter, locally, strongly, and nationally, actually, organization, calling for the impeachment of the president, who happened to be a white Republican, doing these crimes strongly. And then when the black Democrat came in and did the same damn thing, they didn't apply the same standards. So we were really put on the hot seat there. And our chapter had to deal with this as a resolution. I want to thank former chapter member Terry Buckenmeyer, who took Tom Santoni's article and made it a resolution for our chapter to deal with. And mind you, it was a difficult time to deal with this because not all the confetti had still hit the ground yet, as so many in the left and the anti-war organizations were celebrating the election of the first black American president. And here we are. Wait a minute. Larry, please let me finish. No, Larry, please let me finish this, Larry, please, and we'll come back. Okay?
Go ahead. But you said something that I can't let pass.
Yes,
all right. I can't let this pass.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to...
I'm saying he didn't do the same thing. Obama did not do the same thing as George W. Bush. He went far beyond George W. Bush.
Thank you.
And I think we need to make that clear. But go ahead. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Larry. This was at the time I'm talking about in January, February 2009 when he just got in office. And so anyway, we took this up as a resolution at a chapter level, and my best friend, Roberto, member of our chapter, 10 years, combat medic, Army Special Forces, is a black fellow, and I can understand the difficulty for some of the folks trying to deal with this issue. And I had to decide whether to keep my position as the chapter president of Veterans for Peace here and put my friendship with Roberto at risk, or step down. I couldn't do both. And I stuck with my position. Our friendship was strong enough to survive it, and our chapter hashed it out during the first few months of Obama's presidency, and we did have the racism thing, oh, you're a Republican, you're not, and all that fallout, but our chapter stuck to the principle, and we stuck to the principle, the precedent of impeachment for wars of aggression that we already set. So we stayed to it, we passed it, and we brought the resolution to the National Convention in August of 2009. And I was there, and this was the first time I met John Amidon in person. And I was up there, and I had 2 minutes to present this resolution in front of our membership and the board. And there were 3 people that stood behind me to speak in favor of it. And I'm proud to say that John Amidon was one of those 3 people. Sadly, the organization didn't go with the resolution. And I believe, and many others are starting to believe, that that was the beginning of the left cover that's allowed for this, where we are right now with this drone killing program.
I cannot be silent.
Nobody can do everything, but everybody can do something. Everyone must play a part. Everyone got to go to work. Work for peace. Spirit said work.
I cannot be silent.